Hello and welcome to our weekly look at events inside Syria. I'm David Foster. It was a bleak assessment from the new UN Arab League envoy after he met President Bashar al-Assad last week. The crisis in Syria, he said, is deteriorating and now poses a threat to the world. Well, Brahimi later sat down with our journalist Jane Araf and explained in more detail, but no more optimistically, how he sees the way ahead.
You've just come from Syria and then Turkey and Jordan. Was there anything about your talks in Syria, particularly with President al-Assad, that changed your perception of the problems that we're facing?
I mean, naturally, talking to people, especially somebody like that, will probably confirm a few things that you know and open other avenues for you. I talked also to a lot of other people from the opposition, civil society. That certainly has helped sharpen the picture I have of Syria. But you still need to talk to a lot of other people, Syrians and non-Syrians, before you can be really in a position to say that, you know, I'm certain of the ground I stand on. I don't think we are there yet.
What is the picture that's emerging of Syria? What's your biggest concern at the moment?
The situation is very bad and worsening. It's not improving. Syrians on both sides say from time to time we are going to win very soon, or 3 months or 2 months, or I don't think it's true. I don't think any side is winning now or any time in the future. The situation is getting worse, and it is a huge threat for the region. These kind of conflicts cannot be bottled up within one country. They will invariably spill over. They already have, with these thousands and hundreds of thousands of refugees that are destabilizing or threatening to destabilize neighboring countries. So this is the main point I'm trying to make, so that Syrians and their different friends realize how serious the situation is and how important it is to pull all forces to help the country solve its problems before it's too late. This is the main point I'm making. I am also making the same point that Kofi Annan was making. You have one track, one line, as if you like, of mediation and of trying to solve this problem. I think everybody should support that track. You don't need several tracks for a situation like this.
And are they willing to listen? I mean, you've now had talks with Chinese, the Russians, an Iranian envoy. Are they realizing the seriousness of this?
I think so. I think so. I think, the only fact that foreign ministers feel that they have to call me, take the responsibility of calling me from their various capital, and also to agree to see me in New York next week. I think this in itself is an indication that they are realizing that this is important. This is important and urgent. Let's hope that the next step is to see how they can get together and support a plan that we can put out. I tell people that I have no plan. I don't. But it's not impossible to work out one if there is a willingness to listen and work together.
Are there any parameters right now as to that kind of plan that might emerge? Could it include the Syrian president, for instance?
It will include him necessarily. How, you see, the thing is, you've got to go into this from what is certain to the things that need to become certain as you go along. What is certain is that this is a very serious crisis. What is certain is that talking about reform is not the right thing to do anymore. Now you've got to talk about change. And change has to be serious and profound. I don't know what kind of qualifications you want to give it, but change has to take place.
Does that change necessarily include a change in leadership?
Well, this is not something that you want to discuss on television before you discuss it with the interested parties inside Syria and also around Syria. But I think everybody knows, and I said this to everybody, what is needed is change. It must be serious, and the earlier the better.
It's really difficult to tell, as it was in Iraq, who speaks for the Syrian people. How much credibility does the external opposition have, for instance, do you think?
I'm the last one who can or should pass judgment. The Syrian people is diverse. There is a very rich diversity, and politically also it is very diverse. So you have all sorts of expressions and so on. There is no doubt that people cannot go on speaking as tiny little groups. Ultimately, you've got to have the Syrian people represented by 2, 3, 4 parties, not by 200.
Did you feel in your visit that you were able to get a sense of what was going on the ground, given the security restrictions? And
I think so. I'm sure I have still a lot to learn, but the little I have seen, the little I have heard, and I have heard much more than I have seen, confirms that thing which becomes perhaps boring, that the situation is extremely bad and getting worse.
How concerned are you about foreign interference in Syria, whether it's weapons believed to be coming from some of the other countries in the region or Iranian advisors on the ground?
The Secretary General of the United Nations, practically every time he speaks about Syria, says weapons must be stopped. You must stop the flow of weapons into Syria. Each side will say, we are receiving weapons to defend ourselves. But I suppose that at some stage, the people who are sending in weapons will have to also come around and say, as part of a settlement, that has got to stop.
You don't like deadlines, but at what point would you assess that it's not worth continuing your mission? What would have to happen for you to make that decision?
I will not stay one day beyond, if God forbid, I realize that I cannot go any further, I will stop and give up. But as long as there is any hope that we can help in any way possible, we will continue.
Before you took the job, you said you would need the support of the Security Council. Do you believe you have the support you need?
I have the support of every member of the Security Council separately. It will be good to have it collectively. I think that it will happen. You know, I mean, they are inviting me to address them next week. And this is one of the things we are going to discuss. You see, you know, I'm nothing if I'm not their man. So if they want me to be their man, they will have to support me clearly and openly.
I remember in Iraq, you came and you warned about the prospect of civil war long before civil war there was on anyone's mind.
Sure.
Is it now a full-fledged civil war in Syria? What will remain of Syria?
You see, you know, understandably, people who are involved in something like this will take a long time before they accept that they are in civil war. And I remember perfectly well what I said in Iraq. I think it was in April 2004. I said, you know, nobody is going to say, tomorrow I'm going to start a civil war. Civil wars happen because, you know, in Lebanon, it was a bus that was attacked. That started the civil war. So you have one incident, and then two, and then three, and then 10, and then 30. And one day, everybody recognized that there is a civil war. When a neighbor kills a neighbor, when soldiers turn their guns against their fellow soldiers, what do you call that? So that is why I'm saying, you know, don't say we want to prevent the civil war. Say we want to stop the civil war before it becomes unstoppable. So I think, yes, we are in a situation of civil war, but it can be stopped. And the earlier we really all start working on that, the better.
Regarding the refugees, you've now toured the refugee camps.
Yeah.
What's your feeling about the state that the refugees are in, and what seems to be a shifting pattern, more vulnerable people coming across to Jordan, for instance?
You see, this is, I came to see this as part of, you know, sensing the situation and seeing all that constitutes this conflict. But to tell you the truth, I'm terribly embarrassed when I go there. You know, you look like a voyeur. You come for 1 hour or 2 hours. I was terribly embarrassed and unhappy. You know, in Turkey, I met some very highly educated people who must be, you know, terribly frustrated, unhappy, even ashamed of being at the mercy of, you know, they're like beggars. It's not a nice situation to be in. And then you see somebody coming to look at you as if you were in a zoo. It's terribly embarrassing, terribly, terribly embarrassing. And, you know, some people were angry both in Turkey and here. You know, a young man in Turkey told me, please tell me, are we human? I had no answer. Here, you know, we saw a few people, but thousands who had something to say. And of course, you couldn't even listen to them. So, you know, whereas it's important and necessary to be able to tell everybody, you know, this is what I saw, this is what the refugee camp is, this is what the situation of refugees is. On the other hand, on a personal basis, it is terribly embarrassing.
Is it potentially destabilizing as well, the number of refugees coming?
Of course. Turkey has spent until now $300 million on the refugees. I mean, you know, I think we should be thankful to them. I'm not sure whether anybody is helping them. Jordan doesn't have that kind of resources, and they have much more refugees. And until now, the international community has not been that generous. I was told today that these tents could be replaced with prefabricated lodgings, or I don't know how it's called, with $60 million for 80,000 refugees. And these kind of prefabricated houses can be taken back, because these people, when they return, their houses have been destroyed, most in many cases. $60 million can be given by, I was going to say, almost by anybody. So perhaps I can make an appeal through your channel, especially to people in our region. $60 million to give a decent shelter to the refugees that are in Jordan for the winter that is coming.
Dr. Brahimi, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's discuss the points made by Lakhdar Brahimi. I'm joined in the studio by Majub Zuhairi, a Professor of Contemporary History of the Middle East at Qatar University. He's been in, he's seen what he can see both there and in Jordan and elsewhere in Turkey. What do you make of his tone?
I think Lakhdar Brahimi seems very sad. He looks pessimistic about the situation in Syria. He drew a picture politically, in one word, it's a black picture about the situation in Syria. The situation is getting worse. He tries at the beginning, before he started his mission, to be optimistic, but I think after his visit to Damascus and after his visit to refugees camp in Turkey and Jordan, he became more aware about how much the situation is really bad, and he used this strongly bad.
This is a man who is extraordinarily experienced in extremely difficult situations. Indeed. Afghanistan, Iraq, Lebanon. Do you believe, listening to what he's had to say, that he was surprised by what he learnt about the difficulties of Syria?
I think to some extent, yes, he was surprised. But at the same time, he wanted to send a clear message to the public over the world, especially in the Arab world, who actually expected a lot from him, that they have to lower their expectation. And I think the message is to the different people who were expecting a lot from him from the beginning. I remember when he accepted the mission, they were increasing the pressure on him that, he's the man, he will do it. He had a history of success on these missions. And I think in this interview, he made it very clear.
So he's trying to knock down those hopes. What about the words? I don't think any side's winning now or any time in the future.
Yes, I mean, this was a very clear point that, he, after what he heard, after the Skype interviews with the Free Syrian Army leaders in different places in Syria, he became aware that, no one can win this battle on the ground. And all of what they say, they want to achieve more things on the ground. This cannot lead to a solution sometime soon.
The time is not now for reform, he said. The time has come for change. That means he believes Assad's time is up.
I think it has. He made again a strong point that the change has come to the point where this should include the President Assad, and any debate about reform has come to end. So basically, he closed that file of all of this slogan about for reform, dialogue. There is nothing about this. So Lakhdar Brahimi says to the public that his mission will be about change, and this change to be president to be included.
But he also knows that it's going to be very difficult for him to formulate any reasonable plan when he doesn't really know to whom he should be speaking. He said we need not 200 different groups, we need 2, 3 or 4 groups.
Yeah, I mean, this is also one of the points he admitted before actually starting his message, that the political landscape, political is fragmented. And he was saying, even before he went to Damascus, that they need to work together, they need to get together, they need to have one message, one plan. And I think he asked 2 main, I would say, fronts. One, international community to support his mission in the Security Council, and he asked Syrian position to come together, to be behind him.
And is that fragmentation getting more acute, or are we seeing groups coming together a little bit more?
I think there is a real effort to bring those different factions together, but it seems to me this needs more effort. We saw today there is some Free Syrian Army groups, they get together and they come into Syria. But this will not be enough. They need more to work politically. Especially we know that there is a huge gap between a different group politically about where Syria should go.
Well, when he says not 200, I mean, maybe he's exaggerating slightly, but have we got countless different groups all with their own interests?
I mean, from al-Assad Brahimi, when he says that, it's obvious that he has the information that how much really Syrian positions are fragmented and how they lack of a vision where Syria should go. And also, I think he mentioned that also in the context where he speaks about foreign intervention in Syrian crisis, where he said, again, this also should be directed in a positive manner, so it supports the effort to promote diplomacy to solve the problem. So basically, he puts international effort with unifying Syrian opposition together.
OK, Majid, we will be back with you in just a moment because we're going to bring up some recent developments. Syria's opposition fighters appear in some ways to be changing their tactics. The Free Syrian Army moving its command centre, it says, from the Turkish border into Syria. Commander Riyad al-Assad made the statement from inside Syria, the first time he's been able to do so.
To the Syrian people, its freedom fighters and all the armed factions, we are glad to let you know that the leadership of the FSA has moved into Syria, following arrangements made with other brigades that included securing liberated areas with the hope of launching the offensive on Damascus. Since we left our country, we suffered all sorts of regional and international interference and political pressure. We were isolated. Their goal was to have the FSA replace Assad once he is gone. But we categorically made it clear that we would never betray our people, reiterating that only the Syrians should decide their future institutions.
Majid Zawahiri, is he talking there about the military future of his operation or the political dimensions?
I think it's very clear he speaks about the military side of all of this. He speaks about that efforts has been done in the last 3 months. I am aware that there was a lot of effort done by different countries to bring all of these military wings together under one umbrella. And I think the progress made in Aleppo is a conclusion of all of these efforts. So basically, going to Syria and enter Syria today is actually, I would say, the major outcome of the effort done in the last 3-4 months.
You can see it as a military statement.
Yes.
We are more powerful than we were. We have plans to advance. But also, in terms of the opposition movement, does it say quite a great deal about that?
No and yes. In last 5-6 months, there was a lot of discussion about the role of military institution in the future of Syria. And the only institution is strong enough to bring Syrians together, the debate internationally about the military. So there is a discussion about bringing a Free Syrian Army with some personnel within the Syrian army together and try to lead the process and bring, of course, a political, I would say, leadership. But in the same time, the focus now actually on promoting the role of military. And we know there is an effort now politically led by Riyad Hijab, the defector prime minister, who's trying also to continue that effort, which Riyad al-Assad is doing now.
Final thought on Lakhdar Brahimi. We have to keep it short, I'm afraid. He says the job you're doing at the moment is always the most difficult. Do you think he's optimistic about what he can achieve?
I think no, and he made it very clear that the time he feels that nothing can be achieved, he will give up his job. And I think he made it very clear. And I assume this will not be, forever. I think he had sort of a deadline where he will say, I'm sorry, I can't achieve the mission.
Well, if at any stage he was unaware of the task facing him after his trips into Syria and neighbouring countries and talking to all those involved, he's certainly aware of the difficulties facing him now. Well, many thanks to my guest, Professor Majid Zawahiri, for joining us on this edition of Inside Syria. We thank you very much indeed. And thanks to you too for being with us. Al Jazeera aims to have the most comprehensive coverage of the deteriorating situation in Syria in our news bulletins around the clock and on our website, aljazeera.com. There you will find the stories, the background, the blogs, the analysis from our teams in Syria and right the way across the region, indeed worldwide. From everybody here on Inside Syria, from me, David Foster, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.